Today is meditation and the busy mind. People come along to learn to meditate for a whole variety of reasons. Right at the top of the list is stress. When people talk about stress, they talk about a state of mind, really, and a physiological state all rolled into one that consists normally of stress, which is your body responding to a perceived threat, anxiety, which is an emotion, and worry rolled into one. That's the backdrop of the modern world for most people, for a whole lot of very good reasons. One of the consequences of modern life is a busy mind. If you look at how human beings are designed to live, so there's something like 30 or 40 groups in the world left that are hunter-gatherers that still live to an extent in the way that they've always lived. The oldest permanently sighted human group in the world is the San people of the Kalahari Desert. They're suggesting that they've been living there for many thousands of years. And most of the rest of the world, take Western Europe, for example, endless migrations of people, the Beaker people and the Romans and the Angles and the Saxons and the Danes. But the Kalahari Bushmen have lived there for at least 6,000 years, we think, which is most of the way back towards the advent of agriculture. And then quite possibly well before that. And they live in groups of about 20. So I thought it was a lot more, but as I study more about hunter-gatherers, I discover that that's the optimal human size for a group. What tends to happen is when the group becomes larger, people leave. And people leave and join the group constantly. So there's this incorrect assumption that a 20-person group of hunter-gatherers is a family, but actually there's a lot of genetic diversity as people move from one group to another because they have friendly relations with their neighbours generally. And so people meet and join another group for a whole variety of reasons. And so that's what we're designed to live in nature, sometimes statically, like the Kalahari Bushmen for many thousands of years, sometimes migrating, either migrating to follow food sources or migrating to find space for whatever reason. And so there we are, with all of the equipment that we need to live in nature with a group of 20 people. And instead, we're living in a city of 8 million anonymous strangers, and it couldn't be further from nature in a lot of places. So because of that, there's an element of the rat in a cage about modern life. And all of the things that we have built into our genetic design, it's almost as if modern life provides the opposite of it. And then for the consequences of not having what we're designed for, that's stress, that's worry, that's anxiety, that's fear, that's uncertainty, doubt, all these other things. Then what happens is the economy comes along and gives you a variety of goods and experiences to help you cope. So we created an artificial environment which is contrary to our needs in a lot of places, and then give you something to help you cope with the fact that not living life like human beings designed to live. And that comes down to four things: comfort and pleasure, escapism and distraction. Take that away, the entire global economy collapses overnight. All the things that bring you comfort and pleasure, escapism and distraction. they're there to give us some sense of the capacity to cope in an environment that we're not designed to live in, that's complex, beyond our conception. Yeah. Human beings aren't designed to conceive of a billion, a million, a trillion. What it means, nothing. Yeah. You have to visualize it. And when you do visualize it, it's shocking. So how high does the pile of dollar bills go for $1 trillion? Well, very, very, very high indeed. And so all of these concepts, not to mention things like career choices and which house to buy, which car to buy, what sort of relationship to have, what to get out of life, how to spend your life, what's useful for you and what isn't, and so on. In a very complex environment, there's too much choice. Has anybody ever walked into one of those super-duper hypermarkets, and it's a new super-duper hypermarket, and you know what you want to buy when you go in, and you're wandering aimlessly up and down the aisles, unable to choose, And so you want a tin of beans, and instead of going to the bean shelf and picking up the beans, you're standing there facing an endless variety of beans, you see. So this is just a tiny example of how we're designed to have in our minds a mental map which is an encyclopedia of our environment. All of the people that spend time with studying hunter-gatherers are almost invariably shocked at their intimate level of knowledge of their environment. They've got names for different sorts of rain. They've got a complete understanding of every creature and its place and every plant and its medicinal value or otherwise. And so there's a reasonably static environment, and here we are in an ever-changing one. So even if you do get an encyclopedic knowledge of your life, everything changes. So you have to continually replenish your knowledge. So all of these things, worry, anxiety, and stress, largely as a result, underlying everything else, of the fact that we're living in an environment that we're not genetically designed to live in. And then on top of that, what happens is the mind tends to try to resolve all of the inconsistencies it encounters. So an inconsistency can be something new. Yeah? So it's by definition, if it's new, it's not consistent. So let's say we walk in here and there's a strange artwork here. We have to resolve in our minds the level of satisfactoriness of the artwork, and we'll either say, "Oh, that's fantastic," or "Look at the way that light shines on it," or "Actually, that's a load of rubbish." Yeah, and what's happening is the mind is trying to reconcile this new thing in its environment. And then, as well as that, there's the change that's inherent in modern life. So there isn't just change of circumstances, new skills to learn. There's also new people to integrate into your life in whichever way, and new behaviours of the old people. So somebody behaves in a particular way, and then for some reason they behave in a different way. And all of these things need to be integrated into our mental model in a way that makes it all consistent. We want it to make sense. That's what thought is. Almost invariably, thought is going to the past, going to the future, and going to our experience to try to reconcile and integrate something that's not consistent. And the more inconsistent it is, the busier the mind. If we have what I refer to as the definition I use for worry, which is dwelling on potential negative future outcomes. So we look at the future, we perceive what might be a threat, and what happens is we need to reconcile that. It needs to be consistent in some way. It needs to make sense. It isn't necessarily that we want the threat to go away, but we want to be comfortable with it, because often threats bring rewards. So if there's a challenge that needs to be overcome, there's potential promotion, better job, more responsibility, whatever it happens to be. See, the two things go hand in hand. Potential threat, I might not be able to cope. Reward, they're going to pay me more. Or it's going to look better on my CV, or I'll be able to move somewhere better, or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. And so we don't necessarily want the potential threat to go away. What we want is for it to be consistent. And then the mind will try to do that for us by creating scenarios, running through them. And this is the thing that makes human beings what they are, is their capacity to predict potential future outcomes. But because there's so much of this, so much in our lives that's inconsistent, mind's got a lot of work to do, right? I'm now convinced 50% of society has a constant mental chatter running in their head. I think pretty much everyone's on a spectrum. There are people who wake up in the morning, there's the dialogue. In fact, it's there at night. Let's say if they wake up halfway through a dream, that's the dialogue. The dream is a dialogue. And they wake up, the dialogue's running. Go to bed, the dialogue's running, non-stop. That's at that end of the spectrum. At the other end of the spectrum, people have gaps in the dialogue. But it isn't necessarily, when we're talking about the busyness of the mind, it isn't necessarily how chatty it is, it's the emotion that's attached to it. So let's say you woke up in the morning and your thought processes were dedicated to what you're going to have for breakfast, what you're going to have lunch, and what you're going to have for dinner. There's no emotional charge associated with that. But what actually happens is emotional charge is like a magnet for thoughts. A lot of people say they never worry. Oh, I never worry, I never worry, I never worry. And then lo and behold, they discover they've got to go in for an operation or something, and then that's it. They wake up in the morning, their head's full of it, and they go to bed at night, their head's full of it. Because something's arisen in their experience that's got such a powerful emotional charge that all of the thought is attracted to it, and then that consumes their lives. And so that is worry. What to do? Meditate. Back in 1988, when I first tried to learn meditation, notice the first and tried, my goal was to silence my mind. I really wanted to do that. I wanted my mind to be calm and clear and still, like a mountain pool. That desire never really goes away, to be absolutely honest. It's a natural human desire in a world where the mind's so busy. What actually happened instead was, I failed quite miserably at meditation for something like 20 years because I had that kind of perspective to it. I wanted to get something from it. Now my approach to meditation, which I've adopted from a great meditation teacher, Mingyur Rinpoche. I think he's one of the greatest meditation teachers in the world. He's a Buddhist, I'm not, I'm agnostic, but it doesn't matter because basically Buddhists understand meditation quite deeply. And he said, the purpose of meditation is to become familiar with the mind. And then it all became clear to me. It's not about making the dialogue stop, it's about becoming familiar with it. And then when you're familiar with it, as with all of those things that you become familiar with, you then become comfortable with it. And then when you become comfortable with it, the emotional charge diminishes. And the magnetic effect of thoughts going to whatever you perceive to be your greatest threat all the time diminishes. So the calming of the mind isn't a switch on-off, although most long-term meditators can silence their minds. I can. But I'm in the same boat as everybody else in that I don't know what the next thing I'm going to think of is. I don't know what my next thought's going to be. Nobody does. And although I might silence my mind, I don't know how long it's going to be silent for. I could say, I can probably do it for 15 to 30 minutes. But then at some point, thought's going to arise. And when it does, I don't know what it is. And if my mind is stuck in a groove on whatever it perceives to be the greatest threat, chances are that's where it's going to go. So I've got all sorts of practices, all the things I teach, and I'll teach them during this course that will help you to not have your mind constantly drawn to something unhelpful if you choose not to. So the best way to learn to meditate is not to meditate. The best way to learn to meditate is to do what I call the meditation of no meditation, which consists of, it's probably best if you close your eyes, but you don't need to. If you keep your eyes open, look down past the tip of your nose with your eyes half shut. This is an exercise, the meditation of no meditation for sound. It's an exercise in listening for the next sound. So as we sit here, there's movements in the room, there's the sound of my voice, there's people making sounds in the mansion, sounds outside. You may be able to hear the traffic in the distance, airplanes, the occasional bird, the occasional dog. You may be able to hear the sound of your own breath, or any sounds you make. And what we do is we're listening for the next sound. So what the modern mind does is when it hears a sound, it'll listen to that sound, seeking something of interest from it. So if there's a voice, we'll listen to that voice, trying to pick up what the voice is saying. The ancient mind is capable of listening for the next sound wherever it comes from, and we all have this skill. So when a sound arises, we wait for the next one. So our sense of hearing is always right in the present moment, waiting for a sound to arise. And it could be anywhere around us, could be behind us, in front of us, to the sides, above, below. And so that's what we practice for the next few minutes. A meditation of no meditation for sound. And all we're doing is listening for the next sound. It's very important that you don't perceive this to be a meditation. Very important that you don't try to achieve some goal, such as a silent mind. This isn't about having a silent mind. It's about listening for the next sound. So there's no goals, no expectations. You're not going to get anything from this. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just listening. we're not interested in what the mind's doing. The mind could be busy, it could be wandering, it could be many thoughts. Doesn't matter how you feel. None of that matters. Just listening for the next sound. We don't do anything with it, because as soon as we're aware of the next sound, we're waiting for the next sound after that, the next sound after that, next sound after that. Wherever it might be around us. Just listening. Not getting anything out of it. It's not bringing us anything. No expectations, no goals. Just one sound, followed by another. In your very own time, gently return your attention to the room. Okay, so did anybody find that a difficult experience? I know that some people do.
I almost slept again, as you probably know.
You almost went to sleep?
Yeah.
That's okay, in which case it works. It works, it's fine, it's good. And anybody just get stressed because of the busy mind?
I'm not stressed, but I found my mind wandering, so I think
Yes.
it's a long time in the past.
Yeah, that's okay, doesn't matter.
Found them quite annoying.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's good, it's good. So you found your mind wandering, that's okay. And you found the voice is annoying. It's,
Just the loudness.
yeah, it's irritating.
Yeah.
Yeah. How we measure meditation. How do you measure meditation? This is how you measure meditation. 4 things: boredom, impatience, frustration, irritation. It's what I call the Biffy index. Boredom. The present moment is unsatisfactory. Impatience. I want the unsatisfactory present moment to become a satisfactory present moment, and I want it now. Frustration. Someone's trying to stop me. Someone's trying to stop me, making the unsatisfactory present moment into a satisfactory one. Irritation. The present moment would be satisfactory if it wasn't for the irritation. As your meditation practice grows, Biffy diminishes. Like the sun comes up and like the world goes round, and it just does it on its own. And it's only when you notice that you haven't been impatient or frustrated or bored or irritated, because it goes away without you realising it. And then you think to yourself, when was the last time I was impatient? When was the last time I was bored? then oh, it's gone. You don't notice it go. So that's why I mention it from time to time. So the meditation of no meditation for sound, you can replace it with the meditation of no meditation for the breath. Yeah. If you're relatively new to meditation and you find sounds irritating, you can move over to the meditation of no meditation for the breath. So we'll do that for a couple of minutes. And what that consists of, we're just noticing the movement of the belly as we breathe in and out. You might be aware of it, or you might need to put your fingers there just to feel the sensation of the breath. And this is called the meditation of no meditation for the breath. Again, it's not a meditation. It doesn't matter if we become sleepy. It doesn't matter if we become irritated. It doesn't matter if our mind wanders. All we're doing is noticing the movement. Tiny, tiny movement of the belly rising and the belly falling. Rising, falling. And if you wish, you can state that in your mind. You're noticing the belly rising. You say in your mind, rising. And when the belly falls, say in your mind, falling. Rising, falling. So there's no trying. With both of these practices, we replace trying with waiting. So we're not trying to be focused or trying to be calm or trying anything. With the meditation of no meditation for sound, we're waiting for the next sound. The meditation of no meditation for the breath, we're waiting for the next breath. And we're noticing the breath just as a movement. That's all we're doing, just noticing the movement. Rising, falling. Just the movement, nothing more. Busyness of the mind doesn't matter, the wanderingness of the mind, irritation, frustration, boredom, impatience, none of that matters. Whatever emotions there are, they don't matter. We're just noticing the belly moving, rising, falling. Just the movement, nothing else. Tiny little movement, rising and falling. And again, in your own time, whenever you're ready, returning your attention to the room. So that those are both meditations and also not meditations. They're partly their meditations and partly their an insight into the experience of mindfulness. So mindfulness is the undistracted awareness of the experience of the present moment. The experience of the present moment's everything in it. Thoughts, emotions, sense perceptions. Intuition, choice, all of these. That's the net sum of all human experience there. Thoughts, emotions, sense perceptions, intuition, choice. There's nothing else. Those 5 things. Intuition and choice are tiny. Thoughts, emotions, and sense perceptions, almost all of it. So if you're aware of that, you're present, that's mindfulness. And the meditation of no meditation for sound is the best way to introduce people to the present moment. Because for 95% of people, it's a frictionless experience. The only people for whom it has friction are generally meditators who are so used to wanting to calm the mind that they project that onto the experience, and so it adds friction to it. But for newcomers to meditation, generally speaking, there's no friction. So what you've got is a frictionless meditation, and it's officially supposed to be hard. Meditation is officially hard. So if you look at it in the articles, books, and it's only hard because of the way it's taught. And it's the way I've been teaching it most of the time, which is somehow learning to squeeze in a bit of meditation practice into your day and keep it there through willpower while you're juggling all of the other things that are happening. And of course, in a busy life, in a busy world with a busy mind, finding 15 minutes to sit down and meditate is well nigh impossible for many people. So subsequently you get the situation where 60% of the people that I meet have tried meditation, but only 5% of them have a meditation practice because they're not able to get this thing into their life in a traditional way. So that's why I teach the meditation of no meditation, because what you can do is you can get that into your life quite easily. And at the end of today, I'll pick up on the homework from last week and give you stage 2 of it, which is designed for people that find it difficult getting that early morning practice in, which is most people. So then we're still left with a busy mind, right? So what we want is practices that help us to calm the mind, that are also meditations. So we want to meditate, we want to develop mindfulness, presence, the capacity to be here now out of choice, whenever we choose. But we need to do it in a way that ideal practices will also calm our minds. So we want calm minds. Want. There's 2 meditation practices that are the ones that work for 80% of people. So 8 out of every 10, you'll find one of these practices works for you. Generally speaking, you find one works and the other doesn't. Every so often, they both do. And the names of the practices, the first one's called counting the breaths. I'll explain what that consists of, and the second one's known as labelling the thoughts. And these are the foundational mindfulness meditations. Counting the breaths is the most useful one for newcomers. Almost half of newcomers find that it calms their mind. If it doesn't work for you, don't worry. Chances are the other one will. And if neither of them work for you, don't worry, because there's other meditations that will. And I'll teach those over the course of the next few weeks. Okay, so counting the breaths is a fully fledged meditation. So if you're sitting to meditate, most people sit in chairs to meditate nowadays. You can sit cross-legged. If you sit cross-legged, the reason you're doing it is so you don't drift off. No reason other than that. And it doesn't matter if you drift off. Drifting in and out of sleep as you meditate is perfectly fine. There's this state which is kind of half dreamy place. You know, the half dreamy place where you're still kind of awake, but you're in a dream, and it's usually an enjoyable dream. That's called the hypnagogic state. So if you find yourself drifting into the hypnagogic state, all you do is you balance yourself like this, rather than leaning back, with your elbows by the side and your skull balanced, which is what I call an open, relaxed and balanced posture. And then you're going to drift into the dreamy place, and your head's going to nod, and that will wake you up. And the thing is, stay in the dreamy place. Stay there. Don't go to sleep, but don't force yourself awake, because it's a very energizing and empowering experience to be in that half awake, half asleep state. So 5 minutes of that is like having a 90-minute power nap. So, don't worry if you drift off. And ideally, what we're doing is noticing the breath in the nostrils. So if you place your tongue gently up against the back of the top teeth, provided you don't have a cold, then you're able to notice the breath in the nostrils. Well, that's all we're doing, is noticing the breath. Noticing the breath rising, noticing the breath falling. And what counting the breaths is we just count each in and out breath. We count 1 on the in-breath, using our inner voice. 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, up to 10. And when we reach 10, we begin at 1 again. When we lose count, we begin at 1. So that's 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, up to 10. When we reach 10, begin at 1, and when we lose count, begin at 1. And what I'll do is I'll begin and end the meditations with a bell in a traditional way. So that's 1 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, 3 on the in-breath, 4 on the out-breath, up to 10. Reach 10, begin at 1. Lose count, begin at 1. Practice this for the next few minutes. It's called counting the breaths. So breathing in, noticing whatever you can smell, what you can taste, the sensation of sitting, and in your very, very own time, whenever you're ready, gently return your attention to the room. So while you're doing that, you'll either have a calm mind or a busy mind, and it's almost 50-50. For the people for whom that didn't help to calm their mind, almost invariably, the next meditation will. The world is peculiarly split between what I call labellers and counters. There's a few more counters than labellers. So this meditation is called Labelling the Thoughts. It's another noticing the breath meditation. So you're sitting there, you're noticing the breath rising and falling. Rising and falling. And then what you're doing, while you're aware of the breath, and the reason we're aware of the breath is because it's always in the present moment. Do you remember what your breath was like 25 minutes ago? No. The brain doesn't store that information. So the breath is only ever here now. We never sit at home imagining how we're going to be breathing in the future. So it's not part of the busy mind part of the brain. It's the subconscious process. So if you're noticing the breath, it means you're here. It's like a reality check for the present moment. So we're noticing the breath, and in the same way that we were when we did the meditation of no meditation for sound, we were waiting for the next sound. Always listening for the next sound, the next sound, the next sound. When we do labelling the thoughts, what we're doing is waiting for the next thought. Because either you've got a constant train of thoughts, yada, 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 from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, or alternatively, there's stillness, and then a thought arises, and stillness, another thought arises. And it doesn't matter which one it is. When a thought does arise, all you do is label it in your mind. And the label we use is a word, thinking. So we're noticing the breath, waiting for a thought to arise. When a thought arises, we label it thinking, and we come back and notice the breath. You're waiting for the next thought. And when you do this, it's not just waiting for the next thought to happen. We're also curious where it's happening. Look for the source of thought in the mind. There is one, because if one moment you have no thought, and the next moment there is a thought, it's come from somewhere. It's transitioned from no thought to thought. And that's the bit you're looking for, is a thought just arising. And when you notice the thought, you say in your mind, thinking, go back, wait for the next thought. The listening and noticing where thoughts arise. Another thought arises, label it thinking, back to the breath, wait for the next thought, repeat. Okay? So I'll try that. Better off with your feet flat on the floor, elbows by the side, skull balanced comfortably on top of the spine, tongue up against the back of the top teeth, noticing the breath rising and falling. And as we do that, we're waiting for a thought to arise. When a thought arises, just with one word in our mind, we say thinking in the mind, come back, wait for the next thought. Another thought arises, thinking, wait for the next thought, repeat. Practice this for the next few minutes. It's called labelling the thoughts. So again, noticing what you can smell and taste and the sensation of sitting. And then whenever you're ready, return your attention to the room. So did anybody get a calm mind from doing labelling the thoughts? Okay. Oh, yeah. That's it, yeah. So just briefly, you notice some silence, stillness. So last week, I gave you a little bit of homework. If you can't remember what it was, it's on the first podcast. Each morning, what you do is you write this down once. Doesn't matter where you write it down, on a notepad, whatever. You write down, each morning, when I wake up, I will do 2 minutes of the meditation of no meditation for sound. It's a thing known as an implementation intention. Just by writing it down, it commits it. And then what will happen, every morning you'll try to do meditation of no meditation for sound. So did anybody try that last week at all? Yeah. Did anybody do it every day? Okay, that's good. But what happens when you don't do it? So you've written this down, you said each morning when I wake up I'm going to do this thing, and it's a frictionless 2 minutes, and you don't do it, and then what happens during the day, later on, you remember that you haven't done it? Okay. When that happens, do the meditation of no meditation for sound. Whenever it pops into your mind that you haven't done it, that's when you do it. And you'll discover that you can be doing anything. For instance, I'm doing the meditation of no meditation for sound right now. I'm talking to you, and at the same time I'm listening for the next sound. And you can do the same thing. You're able to listen to the sound of my voice, and at the same time, you're listening for all sound. So that means that whenever it pops into mind, that's when you do it. This is what I call the monkey mind method, because it's your monkey mind that's going to nag you that you haven't done the thing that you expect to do. When the monkey mind pops up to nag, it's a reminder to do it, so you end up doing it then. And don't worry, because there's more. So when you come back next week, even if you find that hasn't worked particularly well, however you perceive particularly well to be, there's another stage. Does that make sense? That's it for this week.